Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another video. Now, I haven't used Ubuntu in a really long time. The last time was 2018 during my exams, and yes, I'm crazy like that. So, I actually haven't seen any videos, any screenshots of this. Maybe I heard some news about some pre-release software, but that's been a long time and I haven't actually checked out any of this, and we're going to be taking a dive in into Ubuntu together. So, well, first of all, we are going to install this on a virtual machine, and I'm sorry because it's a virtual machine. I know how you guys feel about it, but this is my main computer. Okay, disclaimer done. Let's move on. Let's choose our keyboard. This is English, US, English, US. Okay, continue. What apps would you like to start with? Normal installation, minimal installation, download updates while installing Ubuntu, install third party software for graphics and Wi Fi hardware and additional media formats. Okay, we're going to click that because we kind of need that. So we're going to give it a few minutes to prepare the drivers for this Ubuntu installation, and we're going to continue. Okay, so we're going to erase the disk and install Ubuntu. Now, one of my subscribers asked how to install beside Windows or dual boot. Now, if you're not dual booting, one of the simplest ways is to actually erase your entire disk and install Ubuntu. This is the default method. Now, there are some advanced methods if you want to have your data in another partition, if you want to auto mount it. I'm not going to go into that in this video, but this is going to be a simple, straightforward installation because this is in a virtual machine show. So I'm going to erase the disk and install Ubuntu. Let's click on install now. Okay, so it shows us that the partition table has been created with the device being SDA, and we are going to have two apparently, the ESP, which is the EFI system partition. That's where our bootloader is going to be. And then the root is formatted as ext4 journaling system, which is pretty much standard for Linux installations these days, except for some distros which are moving to Btrfs. But let's continue. As for my time zone, I am right here in Kolkata. So we're going to choose that and continue. Your name. Okay, I think it hasn't changed since the last time I used it. Anirban standard PC. Oh wow, that's a huge name. Let's do something like on a PC. Yeah, that sounds good. Password is gonna be super complicated like last time, and I am going to require my password to log in. Okay, so we're gonna let this install, and after it happens, we are going to come back and we're going to explore this together. Thanks for sticking around. Okay, so now that we've installed, we're going to go ahead and restart our virtual machine. Okay, so we're at the login screen. Let's type in our complicated password and go. Okay, so right after installation, it's asking me to connect to one of these online accounts if I ever wanted to, which is really handy. So if you have Google connected, you could get all of your Google Drive data in your file manager, which is Nautilus, which is used by Ubuntu, or you could connect Microsoft or Ubuntu single sign-on. We're going to skip all of that for now. Help improve Ubuntu. Ubuntu can report information that helps developers improve it. Okay, we are not going to send information, but it's helpful that Canonical at least tells us about what we can do instead of Microsoft just sending all of our data, without us knowing anything. Location services, I'm going to keep it off for now. And I am ready to go. So you can use software to install apps like these: VS Code, Zoom, Spotify, Slack. You're pretty much standard software that you're going to need. Some other software which could be really important. I really like Mailspring. It's really useful. And done. Okay, so on first boot, this is Impish Indri Ubuntu 21.10. I was really excited for this, and now it's finally out on the 14th of October, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look together. So first things first, we are going to go to the settings. Okay, now this might look a little bit different if you're used to Ubuntu 21.04 now, because this is not using GNOME 3.38 anymore. This has finally been transitioned to GNOME 40. So let's look for settings, and yes, search works beautifully. Oops, some graphical glitches here and there. We got your network, we got Bluetooth, we got background, we got everything. Okay, so we're gonna go through the backgrounds here, and it looks like there isn't a whole lot of backgrounds, but judging from this icon, I think this is something depending on time, and it'll change depending on the time of day. So that could be a dynamic wallpaper. This one's Yeah, this one's really nice actually. I kind of like it. But we're gonna keep it default for now, just because, well, this is a first impressions video. Under appearance, we have light and we have dark. So up until Ubuntu 21.10, the light theme, which is the Yaru theme, it had black bars and the rest of it was light. But from Ubuntu 21.10, this has been changed. The light will include everything light from the title bar to the actual windows. We can auto hide the dock if we wanted. So I guess if I pull this over, yep, it's going to disappear. Sorry for the jittery animations. Virtual machine, once again, I'm sorry. Okay, show on unknown display, primary display, or we could do this to all displays. We could change the dock position to bottom. So this is going to be kind of like Windows, but actually a bit different because it's on the right hand side. I'm not sure I like it on the bottom, but if it's your jam, go for it. You could place it on the right, but for now we're going to leave it on left. Notifications, this is your pretty much standard affair. If you know GNOME, if you've used Ubuntu, this will look very familiar to you. Okay, so without further ado, let's just check if the resolution is correct. So yes, we are running at 1920 by 1080, which is good. And now for the most important reason why we're in settings is because we want to look at about. Okay, beautiful Ubuntu logo we can see over here. And okay, Ubuntu 21.10 64-bit. This is using the GNOME 40.4, which is excellent. And finally, we are on Wayland by default. Now, if you want an in-depth comparison of Wayland versus X11, or if you don't know what these terms mean, well, there are plenty of guides on YouTube that actually explain the differences between X11 and Wayland. So if you want to know the differences between these, so you have to know what X11 and Wayland are. So these are basically software that handle your display and like displaying different windows or displaying this, your home. So this is going to be file manager. Displaying all of this is actually done through the display server, which is Wayland. Wayland is a vastly improved display server compared to X11, which is kind of outdated by now. X11 was fantastic when it launched, and so Ubuntu shipping Wayland by default is a step in the right direction, even though some things don't quite work under Wayland. We have software updates, and let's see what happens if we click on here. Okay, so this is leading us to the panel where we have Ubuntu software, where you can choose what kind of software you want to download. We have other software, we have updates, you know, how do we want the updates, the frequency of the updates, the authentication, additional drivers, if we need NVIDIA drivers, or if we're wanting to go for pre-released updates, which is not really meant for normal user, but this could be very useful for a developer. And this is Ubuntu Live Patch. So Live Patch, if I remember correctly, is something which, like, it applies security patches to your kernel. Sorry, and you don't have to restart your system. So that's very handy if you're working on something very critical and you don't want to waste your time. Okay, moving on from settings. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and take a look at Ubuntu software. Okay, so this is the Ubuntu Software Center, and it looks nice on first glance. It's white. It matches with our Yaru light theme. But if I am not wrong, the Software Center, the title bar doesn't match. It's okay. It could be a little jarring if you're very sensitive to theming, but it's all right. Now we can update the Snap runtime environment, but we're not going to do that because this is a virtual machine. This is all the software that is installed. And if we go to any of these, let's just say disk usage analyzer, and if we go down, we can see this is running GNOME 41. So even though the desktop environment itself is GNOME 40, the apps are a bit more advanced and they are from GNOME 41, which should contain a little bit more bug fixes and a little more polished software in general. Okay, let's see what else do we have. We have Document Scanner, we have Events, we have File Roller. Firefox is the default browser, as we all know. And we also have the GNOME 3.38 Ubuntu stack. Now, this is important to consider because GNOME 40 by default, if you have seen any videos about Fedora 34, 35 beta, GNOME doesn't actually come with a panel on the left. It's just the top bar and just the wallpaper. You can't even put icons on the home screen. GNOME doesn't allow you to do that, but Ubuntu, what they've done is to preserve a familiarity with their audience who date back to the Unity era. They have actually modified it. They have actually added software to make a panel to put icons on the home screen through extensions and other code to make it familiar. And this is actually pretty good because even though people are going from GNOME 3.38 to GNOME 40 and it changes from vertical workspaces to horizontal workspaces, this is going to feel familiar to a lot of people. So yeah, that's it. That's why you have the GNOME 3.38 Ubuntu stack. We got a few games over here. We got the LibreOffice Draw Impress Writer. We got Logs. We got Remina, which is very useful if you want to connect to remote desktops. Rhythmbox, one of my personal favorites. Screenshot tool works well. Shotwell System Monitor. Okay, System Monitor. Let's take a look at System Monitor and System. Okay, so it has information in it. It has what you want to do with it, and it has the version details like the others. Install shies. It shows the reviews. Let's move on. So here, as you can see, this interface is new, and you have your virtual desktops over here, so you can switch between them. If let's say if I open videos over here, and let's give it a minute. And if I go over and switch to this, and if I open something, let's say LibreOffice Calc, so we can easily switch back and forth. Now you probably don't need to use your mouse as much, but I don't know the keyboard shortcuts to these, and you can easily do it. Now these are also dynamic workspaces, so you can pretty much have another workspace empty ready for you the moment you fill these two up. Okay, now that we're in LibreOffice Calc, let's go to Help and About and see what version we're running. Okay, so we're running 7.2.1.2, which is a fairly recent version. I believe it's the latest version. Let's go to the terminal. Okay, familiar, beautiful Ubuntu terminal from before. Let's do a quick uname A. So this is running the 5.13 generic kernel. That's not the latest, but it is very recent and it'll serve you just fine. Let's see if htop is installed in our system. So it is not. So let's go ahead and we will give it a go. Now, while I'm in the terminal, let me also go ahead and grab NeoFetch. Okay, 31 MBs. Okay, so now that we have NeoFetch and htop installed, we're going to restart the system real quick and we're going to find out how much RAM it takes on a fresh boot. If you've never used Ubuntu before, on the top panel in the right hand corner, you have your little icon stack, and from here you can simply go and do a restart. Okay, we're back into our system. We're going to go ahead and quickly go to the terminal and fire up htop and see how much system resources we're using on a fresh boot. Okay, so on a fresh boot, we're using 928 megabytes of RAM. As you can see, it's fluctuating a little bit, but this looks good. It's not too light, but given the fact that it's GNOME and that it's a very modern desktop, and people installing this operating system will have fairly capable hardware, I think it's fair to say that 950 MB in today's market, it's a pretty standard deal. Okay, so now let's quickly get out of htop and we're going to see something else. Oops. Let's look at NeoFetch. I know you people out there, you want to see this, and yeah, it looks beautiful just as ever. So we have Ubuntu 21.10. We're using 17.9 Debian packages and 8 snap packages out of the box. Bash 5.1.8, GNOME 40.5 as we saw earlier, and we are using the Yaru theme. Okay, let's look at what kind of partitioning we have. Okay, I'm not sure about these loop partitions. I've never seen them before, but normally we have the SDA, and I assign 20 gigs to this virtual machine. So out of this, 513 MBs for the EFI partition, 19 gigs for the root, and 3 gigs. I don't know what this is for, but it's probably for swap. I'm not sure. Moving on, let's open File Manager. And it's beautiful, the Yaru theme. It's been modified with the title bars, with the white title bars. And if we go ahead and, well, there aren't any other locations on computer. You can see, well, let's just look at some of those files in here. It looks beautiful, doesn't it? Yeah, you can go home on a run. You can go to documents, and well, the folder is empty. I kind of like it. It looks really, really, really fancy. Let's quickly take a screenshot. Okay, let's go to files. Let's go to pictures, I assume. And there is our screenshot. Cool, very nice, very handy. Okay, so by default, it includes Firefox as our web browser, which is really the better option considering Chrome has taken over the market entirely almost. Okay, so we have Mozilla Firefox. And let's see what version we're running. And I think on this version, Mozilla Firefox should be a snap package because Canonical and Mozilla, they decided that Firefox would be shipped as a snap from Ubuntu 21.10. And yeah, 93 Firefox 64-bit, and this is a snap version for Ubuntu. Now, that's probably going to tick the wrong boxes for some of you, but it is what it is. So, as for the standard fare of applications, we have, as I already discussed in the software category through settings, we have a pretty good suite of applications. It's by no means bloated, but you have all your things. You have transmission, which is for torrents, for downloads. We have a to-do list, we have a Sudoku, we have startup disk creator, startup applications, Shotwell, you have software updater and software update. And software updater is actually what checks for your updates. I'm now going to turn on camera. This is cheese. And we already saw this. So I'm actually pretty excited for this. This is a new release of Ubuntu. We have GNOME 40. We can do a lot more things. We can scroll through pages. This is a little bit different from GNOME 3.38 where everything was stacked vertically, and even if you look at Pop! OS now, the application page, you're going to have it stacked vertically, and even the workspaces, it's in a different fashion. Overall, I kind of like where this is going. I kind of find it a little bit jarring to have a panel sticking out when I have this clean desktop environment over here. but it is what it is, and Ubuntu fans are not going to be displaced. If you like Ubuntu, if you like what they're doing, this will be totally up your alley. And with that note, I would love to say thank you for all those people. Thank you to all those people who have been watching. It's been a great pleasure, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.